everybody. I'm Deirdre, like Vicky said, and I'm a recovering controller, fixer, chaos creator. So I was at the New Year's Eve service at John and Vicky's church, and we talked about words for the year and what God was calling us to, and my word for the year was persist. I was like, great, get to keep on keeping on, and that sounds like something I can handle. And then the second week of January, my dad had a stroke. And so the word persist took on a whole new meaning in terms of like persisting steadfastly through adversity and not just keeping on. But it could have been a worse stroke, and he quickly started to recover mobility and strength. We had like a whole month of like linear progress. And then the second week of February, he started getting mini strokes. He had 25 mini strokes the first day. And he's had 5 or 6 a day, every day after that. And there are no treatments for this. And we don't know what his life is going to look like going forward. And I felt quite helpless and quite out of control and quite weak watching this all happen. I was able to visit for a week in January, and then I just got back from another week at home last week and helping my mom and seeing my dad in the hospital. He's been in the inpatient recovery program. And it's been really difficult. And thinking about it, there's lots of reasons that it's been difficult, but I think one of the biggest ones is how out of control I feel. I get just very confronted by how little control I have all the time. I can't control, there's little things like you go to the hospital and visit and you have no control about who comes into the room while you're visiting. The nurse could come in, the cleaning staff could come in, somebody else could come visit, your dad's roommate could come back from his therapy, someone could come to visit him. You go home and you can't control who will call the house to ask how Papa's doing, or talk to Mama and see how she's doing. And then those are just the little things. And then the bigger things are like, you don't know, I'm not in control of if my dad will get better, if he'll get worse, if he'll have a bigger stroke, if he's going to live long, if he's not going to live long. And then when I come back to Ottawa, I'm not in control of how much information I have about how he's doing. I have to rely on my siblings and my mom to send updates and kind of wait and hope. My sister was home and she was like, when I was in Victoria, I thought, why don't people send me more updates? All I need is more updates. She's like, and then I got home and I thought, why do you all need so many updates? And it's kind of like that. When you're far away, you kind of want the more information so you have a little more control and a little bit more knowledge. But the information doesn't actually help me be in control either. It just helps me know. But yeah, I can't control my dad's recovery from the stroke, and I can't fix him, and the doctors can't even fix him. Like, there's no area of life in which I'm like, yes, I can make this happen the way that I want it to right now. And I feel really weak. Like, this is my first week back from my second visit, and I took the day off yesterday and lay around for most of Monday, and I felt very weak, and I felt angry at myself for being so weak. I'm like looking at my housemates with kids, and like, they keep it together. They don't take days off. They can like go through whatever they go through and still have to like put the kids to bed and get them up in the morning and bring them to school. And my mom has been living with this for like 2 months, and I like a week and I'm done. Like, I'm gonna go lie down. And I think like really that experience was one of spinning in like the thwarted controlling, fixing territory where I'm like, you should be able to manage these things and you weren't able to, and that's not okay. You're not okay. You're not good. And it's chaos in my mind. And so really, like, throughout this whole journey, and especially in the last couple of days, God has reminded me of several things. And the first one is from 1 Corinthians. My higher power is God in the good book. And this is the passage that came to mind. Brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called by human standards. Not many were influential, not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him. It's because of him that you are in Christ Jesus, who has become for us wisdom from God. That is our righteousness, holiness, and redemption. Therefore, as it is written, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. So, yeah, while I was lying on my bed with a headache yesterday, like weak, unable to go to work, unable to do what I wanted to do, God reminded me, like, you are weak and that is okay. Like, maybe I have or I have not, like, worked my recovery to its full extent. Maybe I could have done better recovery work when I wouldn't have been here. Maybe I could have done more inner healing. Maybe I could have slept more while I was at home last week. But the truth is that we all experience things that overwhelm us and take us out. It's just part of being human, because the world is broken and Satan is active in it, and my heart is weak and inadequate and full of sin and full of deceit. And so even the most with it recovery person in the world would still come up against something that, like, challenges and pushes them. And this is my thing right now. And compared to God, we are all totally inadequate and we're all weak. And furthermore, like, the Corinthians passage talks about God particularly choosing people who are weak and lowly and despised and who have little influence. And it's true. I am weak. My health is not that great. Like, I burnt out 5 or 6 years ago and it hasn't been the same since. And if I overdo it, I get days-long headaches and I get depressive, and I just kind of have to wait for my body to, like, restore itself. And I do have particular limits and particular weaknesses that other people don't have. It's just true. And I hate this, as you can see, but God does not hate it. He says, I picked you because you are weak in this way. Like, I have something special for you because this is how you are. And he doesn't want me to be able to say, well, my dad got sick and it was really hard, but I made it through. Like, I had the right self-care and I had the right community and I knew my limits and I was strong enough. He's not really interested in that story. Like, he's interested in the story where I brag about how strong he was and how he got me through. Because that's what step 2 is. Like, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I can't keep myself sane in the stress that I'm experiencing right now. And God can. Like, that's really, when it comes down to it, that's it. And I try to be my own greater power, and I try to control and fix and make the best possible outcome for myself and the people I love. But that's the insane way, and that's the chaos way. And I don't want that. It leaves me in a place where I do end up lying on my bed, angry at myself, and distant from God and distant from other people. So the best moments in this journey of my dad's health have been the moments where I've been in the place relying on a power greater than myself. And they've been good moments also. I think on the first trip back to Barrie, we had heard the day before that he'd had his original stroke, and I was in the car and I was driving, and we hadn't heard anything from my parents all morning. And when things like that happen, like you're the worst case scenario is very present. And I was like, what if my dad died overnight? And my mom hasn't told us yet because she's so sad. And my mom always said, if your dad dies, I'm just putting him in the freezer and grieving myself, like for a week, and then you guys can all find out. And I was like, what if she's just not telling us? But God was like, well, what would you be doing differently right now? You're driving home. Like, that's where you want to be. Just drive home and, like, wait for everything else. And that was really helpful. I was like, okay, you're right. I would still be driving home. I will keep driving home. He was fine. They were just chatting at the hospital. My sister called them and everything worked out. And my dad has been very strong. He's been very calm and very positive. And he says, and it's true, he's like, I've never been physically weaker, but I've also never been spiritually stronger. Like God has been there and there and there for him. And it's funny when you're the one who is physically whole and trying to be there to support somebody, but they in fact are also supporting you. And my mom and dad have both been people of really strong faith, and that's been really beautiful and really inspiring and really helpful for me in the struggle to keep trusting God and leaning on his power that's greater than myself. And the night we found out that my dad had had those 25 mini strokes, I was like, well, I prayed with my housemates and I listened to some worship music and I texted some friends to pray for me. And I said, okay, God, he's in your hands tonight. And I went to sleep just like that. And that was a God moment as well, where like all the like what ifs and spinning chaos, just he was like, no, you can just go to sleep and have a good night's rest and think about this some more tomorrow. And this is, my mom and I have both started saying, well, we just aren't going to borrow trouble. Anything could happen. Like, we're still not in control. My dad could keep having these mini strokes forever, have a really bad stroke again. My friend's dad just died from a stroke 2 days ago. And I was like, that could be my dad next week. Like, we don't know. He could recover mostly, he could recover totally, but we aren't in control of any of those things, and the worst could happen, but also the best could happen. And we cannot live our days now with these, like the gifts and the trials and the joys and the tribulations of like this day in front of me right now, if I'm in a fearful future somewhere else, trying to like prepare for that or mitigate that or like fix that. And so each day has enough troubles of its own, and God is the one who knows what the future is and will prepare me for it and prepare my family for it. And I can control what I can control. Like the Serenity Prayer, been very helpful. And there's a lot I can't control, all the things I talked about earlier, but so there is therefore a lot to accept. But I can be there for my family. I can text my dad. I can call my dad. I can visit once a month, as long as it seems like that's the thing that would be helpful and good. And I can choose love, and I can choose out of fear, and I can choose trust. I can choose out of fear. And that has been very steadying and grounding and keeping me sane. And the last thing that was helpful for me the last couple of days was the part in the big book where it says, none of us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles, because it's been really hard. And there have been like the despair moments and the lying awake in bed, like thinking things over moments. But God has not left me, and he has shown himself to be more powerful than I am and worthy of trust. And if I'm like pointing in that direction even a little bit, like he honors that and receives it and does beautiful things with it. And so, yeah, that is the way that my power greater than myself has been acting and helping me and getting me through the last couple of months. And I'm really grateful for it, and really grateful to all of you for hearing my story today. Thank you.